मां विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिति नामने नमस्ते सारस्वते नमस्ते वाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य श्री गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे 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 राम राम हरे हरे. Yes, in our last session, anyone remembers what we covered last session? Second chapter, some 11 verses we have covered. So what we discussed in last chapter? किसी को याद है, कोई क्लियर करना चाहेगा?
औसत जो 11 श्लोक में खास कृष्ण ने जो वचन किया उनको बोला था, तो अर्जुन ने जो विज्ञ का माफिक बात कर रहा है कि ये शोक करना नहीं चाहिए। जो ये आदमी जानते हैं सब कुछ, उसका विज्ञ आदमी को शोक और मृत्यु और जन्म के लिए उनको ये नहीं करना चाहिए, शोक नहीं करना चाहिए। दैट इज अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट श्लोक। एंड यहीं से भगवद गीता एक्चुअली शुरू होता है। भगवान श्री कृष्ण जो ये किया अर्जुन को।
Anyone else would like to share a summary what we discussed so far? So far in the second chapter, Arjuna, he was expressing his grief. He was confused. He surrendered to Krishna. Then further Krishna started speaking. What he says, the very first verse, he says, you are talking like a very learned person, but you are mourning for what which is not to be meant for grief. Indirectly, Krishna was telling Arjuna like a fool. He was chastising Arjuna, right? So now this further verses are on Sankhya Yoga. These further verses are based on Sankhya Yoga. So basically, what is Sankhya Yoga? Sankhya Yoga is the knowledge about the self, knowledge about the soul and the body, about this existence, about the soul and the body. What is the constitutional position? What is the relationship? All that is Sankhya Yoga. So we'll start with the 12th verse. Here it is. All of you please join me in chanting the verse in the shloka. नातम एवहम जातु नाशम नातम, क्या प्लीज? नातम नेमे जनाधिपा,
नात्वं नेमे जनाधिपा,
न चैव न भविष्यामः,
न चैव न भविष्यामः,
सर्वे व्याम अतः परम्,
सर्वे वयम् अतः परम्।
कोई चैंट करना चाहेगा श्लोक को? Anyone would like to chant the shloka?
करो प्रभु।
नाशम
न त्व एवहं जातु नाशं, न त्वं नेमे जनाधिपः, न चैव न भविष्यामः, सर्वे वयम् अतः परम्।
वंडरफुल। कोई और चैंट करना चाहेगा?
नातं नेमे जनाधिपा, न चैव न भविष्यामः, सर्वे वयमत परम।
वंडरफुल। कोई और? Someone else would like to try?
हाँ जी प्रभु जी, मैं करना चाहूँगा।
हाँ जी प्लीज।
न त्वे वाहम जातु नासम, न त्वं नेमे जनाधिपा, न चैव न भविष्यामः सर्वे व्यमतः परम्.
Yes, wonderful. Someone else would like to try? We'll move forward. Translation. Never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be. So here, Krishna is telling that in a way, if we try to understand, in the past, all of us were existing. I was existing, you were existing, and all these kings, they were also existing in the past. And they are existing now in present also. And in future also, they will be existing. They will not get seized, means they will not get destroyed. They will not get seized. This is what Krishna is telling here. And this is the, if you see, Arjuna, he is talking about the war. He is talking about the loss of the friends, family, relatives, all such things he is talking. But Krishna, he starts speaking about the very beginning of the basic fundamental of the self itself. Krishna is not talking about big things, wars. He is talking first about the self. About the self. He is talking about, he is starting from the ABCD. Like that, Krishna is starting. Right? So we'll read the purport. Very interesting thing is there. And especially if we see from here, we can understand the meaning or the what is the meaning of the spirituality. So we'll read the purport. In the Vedas, in the Katha Upanishad as well as in the Shvetashvara Upanishad, it is said that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the maintainer of innumerable living entities in terms of their different situations according to individual work and reaction of work. That Supreme Personality of Godhead is also by His plenary portions alive in the heart of every living entity. Only saintly persons who can see within and without the same Supreme Lord can actually attain to perfect and eternal peace. Nityo nityanam chetnas chetnanam eko bhuvnam yo vidadati kama tam atmatast ye anupashyanti dhiras tesham shanti sashvati netrasham. So here Nityo Nityanam. Nitya refers to eternal, which is singular being, which is eternal. That singular being, which is eternal. Nityanam. It is plural being, which is eternal. Again, Chetnas Chetnanam. Singular being who is having consciousness. Chetnanam, plural being who is having consciousness. So this Eko, who is the singular, this Eko, this personality, Eko Bhaunam yo vidadati kama. This singular is maintaining the Bhauna. Bhauna means all plural beings. Yo vidadati kama, to maintain them, to fulfill their desires. This singular being is maintaining all these eternal beings who are having consciousness. So what does it mean? The Nitya, who is the Ishvara who is the Nitya, and the living entities, they are also Nitya. Jiva is also Nitya. So Ishvara is maintaining all the living entities, all the Jivas, whether they are conditioned or they are liberated. In spite of that, Ishvara is maintaining both of them, conditioned also and liberated also. Now further, tam atmastham yo anupashyanti dhiras. And the one who is situated, this plural being, this singular being, this Ishvara who is situated in everyone's heart, every living entity's heart, he is anupashyanti dhiras. He is seen by the Dhira, one who is a sober man, one who is a gentle person. He is seen by such person. Who is that person? That saintly person. Dhira is the one who is a saintly person. He is a gentle person who is not disturbed and does not also create disturbance. That is called as Dhira. So that Dhira is seeing this super soul or this Ishvara in every living entity's heart. In everyone living entity's heart, he is seeing. So, how one can attain that position? How one can attain Dhira? How one can be a Dhira? That is the question. That further will understand how one can be a Dhira. The same Vedic truth given to Arjuna is given to all persons in the world who possess themselves as very learned but factually have but very poor fund of knowledge. The Lord says clearly that He Himself, Arjuna, and all the kings who are assembled on the battlefield are eternally individual beings, and that the Lord is eternally maintainer of the individual living entities, both in the conditioned as well as in their liberatory situation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the supreme individual person, and Arjuna, the Lord's eternal associate, and all the kings assembled there are individual, eternal person. It is not that they did not exist as individuals in the past, and it is not that they will not remain eternal persons. Their individuality existed in the past, and their individuality will continue in the future without interruption. Therefore, there is no cause for lamentation for everyone. Now, Krishna is telling that all these persons, I, you, and all the kings who are assembled there, they were existing in the past, they are existing now in the present, and they will exist in the future. So why you are lamenting? He is addressing Arjuna in such a way. Why you have to lament? Because we are the spirit soul. We are not this body. This body is made of 5 gross elements. But we are the spirit soul, which is different from this body. So this spirit soul, which is eternal, was existing in the past, is existing in present, and will exist in future. So why, Arjuna, you are lamenting? Because there is no cessation for this spirit soul. So why you have to lament? And Krishna, he is maintaining all these spirit soul, all the living entities Krishna is maintaining. So there is no cause of lamentation. Even an elephant, African elephant, who eats hundreds of kg every day, that living entity also Krishna is maintaining. And we have a diet of 100 or 200 gram we eat. To us also Krishna is maintaining. And a small ant which eats hardly some milligrams, that living entity also Krishna is maintaining. All the living entities Krishna is maintaining. Why there is a lamentation? Now, there is a follower, there's believers of some Mayavada philosophy, which is very widely common understanding also, and widely people in general they understand. So what is this Mayavada philosophy, which Krishna at first place, at first verse itself, Krishna is refuting. Krishna is refuting from this verse itself. One can see how Krishna has refuted this Mayavada philosophy. So what is that philosophy? So this Mayavada philosophy is nothing but it is, according to Mayavada philosophy, the soul, the individual soul, it has been separated because of material energy, because of illusion or Maya has been separated. But once this soul get liberated, get free from this body, attains the liberation, it merges into the impersonal Brahman. It merges into the impersonal Brahman and it becomes the God. That spirit soul becomes the God. Further, there is no existence of this spirit soul. This spirit soul loses its individuality. So here Krishna is telling, in future also individuality will remain. But Mayavada philosophy, it says that individuality will be lost when it attains the liberation. Here, the Mayavada theory that after liberation, the individual soul separated by covering of Maya or illusion will merge into the impersonal Brahman and loses its individual existence is not supported herein by Lord Krishna, the supreme authority. So Krishna, he is the supreme authority in the scriptures. So he himself is saying that all these living entities will remain forever. In the future also, they will exist. So, whereas Mayavada philosophy says, after death, there is no individuality. There is no individuality. Now, further, very important thing is mentioned here. And because of this Mayavadi philosophy, if one hears the Mayavada philosophy, what happens? One cannot understand the real intention or real understanding of Bhagavad Gita. Because this Mayavadi philosophy, it gives misinterpretation of the scriptures. Here we'll read very nice point is mentioned. It is clearly mentioned in many places in the Gita that this spiritual individuality is understood by those who are devotee of the Lord. Those who are envious of Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead have no bona fide access to the great literature. The non-devotee's approach to the teachings of Gita is something like bees licking on a bottle of honey. One cannot have a taste of honey unless one opens the bottle. Similarly, the mysticism of the Bhagavad Gita can be understood only by devotees, and no one else can taste it. As it is stated in the 4th chapter of book, nor can the Gita can be touched by a person who envy the very existence of the Lord. Therefore, the Mayavada explanation of Gita is the most misleading presentation of the whole truth. Lord Chaitanya has forbidden us to read the commentation made by Mayavadis and warns that no one who takes to such an understanding of Mayavadi philosophy loses all power to understand the real mystery of the Gita. If individuality refers to the empirical universe, then there is no need of teaching by the Lord. The plurality of the individual soul and of the Lord is eternal fact. It is confirmed by the Vedas as mentioned above. So, those who are the Mayavadas, followers of Mayavada philosophy, they have been compared here as the bee licking the honey outside the jar of a honey bottle. Honey bottle, if you see the outside, some drop, some particle of honey will be there on the bottle of the honey outside that jar. So bee which is licking that honey, it's just hardly enjoying the fraction of the entire honey. Whereas the devotee, they have access to the open bottle. They have the access of the open bottle. They lick the honey directly. So here, if we try to understand, or first of all, I would like to ask, what is the meaning or what do you understand by spirituality? Spirituality से अध्यात्म से आप क्या समझते हैं? What do you understand by spirituality? Can anyone of you please share some points? कोई share करना चाहेगा? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes.
In
हाँ जी.
spirituality,
हाँ जी बताइए.
we stress more on the soul. We try to understand soul, our relationship with the God, and not so much on the body,
Okay.
on the
Wonderful.
material world.
Yes. Yes. Someone else? कोई और try
Prabhuji,
करना
I
चाहेगा?
can I can try. So
Yeah,
the word spirituality is made from spirit. So spirit is like our soul, and our soul to the connection to the God. So our soul's position and God's position.
Okay. Wonderful. Someone else? कोई और try करना चाहेगा? Okay. So spirituality, what we can understand from spirituality, as you have mentioned, spirit, it is made from the word spirit. Spirit means soul. The one who realizes the self, the one who realizes the self, self means the soul, one who realizes the soul and act on that platform. And act on that platform means the one who follows that process of realizing the self is called as spirituality. One who follows the process to realize the self is a spirituality. In simple words, we can say. Now, we, self means soul. Who we are the part and parcel of the Lord, Supreme Lord Krishna. First of all, if we don't know about this thing, how we can act? Suppose a person is there, he belongs to a very rich family. Now, due to some accident, he is suffering from coma. So he don't know from where he has come, to which family he belongs. Now he is in hospital. Doctor is asking. He don't know any detail. He is in coma. He has lost his identity. So for him, how difficult it will be. How difficult it will be to exist in the world, to survive in the world. He will be roaming on the roads. He may be begging also. He may suffer lot of miseries because he has lose his existence. He don't know about his existence. So he will not be able to enjoy. He will not be able to feel happy. Same thing is happening here with Arjuna. He is going through the existential crisis. He don't know who he is. He is a part and parcel of the Lord, first thing. Second thing is, he is a Kshatriya. His duty is to fight. So until and unless we don't know about ourselves, we don't know about our existence, we cannot lead our life in a peaceful way. And when there is no peace, there cannot be happiness. One cannot be happy if there is no peace. So it is very important for one to understand who we are. And that is what Krishna is doing. He is starting from that very point itself. He is starting from that very point. That we are the spirit soul. So he is going to explain about the spirit soul first of all. And what then further Krishna will be going to explain what is the way to realize the self, the way to realize the spirit soul, and this spirit soul, what relationship it has with the Supreme Lord Ishvara, how it is a part and parcel of that Ishvara, that Krishna is going to explain. And as a spirit soul, what is his duty towards that Ishvara, towards the other living entities? That also Krishna is going to explain. Prakriti. So all these things Krishna will explain. So we'll move forward towards next verse. Yes, one more important thing here. So Arjuna may think, now okay, we are eternal soul, we are and this soul, this body is related to the soul. We are the eternal soul and this body is related to soul. And from this body, there are various relatives which we are related to. Father, mother, grandfather. This body has certain relationship. So, on such loss of body, on such a loss of relationship, there will be lamentation. One will be lamenting because of loss of such body, because this body belongs to this soul. This body belongs to the soul, the real self. So one may lament for it. So that is what Krishna is going to clarify in the very next verse. He is going to clarify. Before Arjuna asks, Krishna is going to give the answer. So what Krishna is going to tell? Dehinosmin yatha dehe komaram yovanam jara tata deyantar praptir dhiras tatra namuyati. Translation: as the embodied soul continually passes in this body, from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. The self-realized soul is not bewildered by such a change. Wonderful. Now, we'll read purport, then we'll explain this. Since every living entity is an individual soul, each is changing his body every moment, manifesting sometimes as a child, sometimes as a youth, sometimes as an old person. Yet the same spirit soul is there and does not undergo any change. This individual soul finally changes the body at death and transmigrates to another body. Since it is assured to have another body in the next birth, either the material or spiritual, there was no cause for lamentation by Arjuna on the account of death, neither for Bhishma nor for Drona, for whom he was so much concerned. Rather, he should rejoice for their changing bodies from old to new ones, thereby rejuvenating their energy. Such changes of body account for varieties of enjoyment or suffering, according to one's work in life. So Bhishma and Drona, being noble souls, were surely going to have either spiritual bodies in the next life, or at least in the heavenly bodies for superior enjoyment of material existence. So in either case, there was no cause of lamentation. Now, if we see this body is there according to science also, this body changes every 7 years. Each and every cell of our body gets changed in 7 years. Some cells get changed within same day. There are some cells which takes up to a month to get changed, some for a year, and some neurons or complex cells get replaced or changed in 7 years. So even as per science, our entire body get changed in every 7 years. So when we were very young, very small child, our body was very small. Now if we see, our entire body has been changed. We have attained a very young or old or very tall body over a period of time. This body has changed. In fact, if we see the that photo of a small child and compared to the new one, completely changed. But still, something remains the same. What is that? That memory we are carrying. The experiences that we are carrying, that remains the same. Why it remains the same? Because souls remain the same. Soul doesn't change. This gross body, which is made of 5 elements, keep changing, whereas the soul and the subtle body does not change. Subtle body is the one which carries all our experiences and memories. So this soul does not changes, even though this body changes. And the person who is a self-realized is not bewildered by such change. He is seeing that just like a person who develops a beard, he is not, suppose a teenager, when he is very young, he develops suddenly beard comes, some hairs grows on his cheeks. He is not very bewildered. But what happens during at the time of death, we get bewildered. But the person who is a self-realized soul, Dhira, who is a sober man, is not disturbed. Is not disturbed by such changes. Now, any man who has perfect knowledge of the constitution of the individual soul, the super soul, and the nature, both material and spiritual, is called Dhira. So, who is a Dhira or a sober person? He is the one who has the knowledge, perfect knowledge of the self, of the super soul, and of material nature and spiritual nature. He has knowledge about all. That person is known as Dhira, sober man. And the person who is a Dhira, who is a sober man, such person is never deluded. Such person is never bewildered or deluded or disturbed by the change of body. Is not disturbed. The Mayavadi theory of oneness of a spirit soul cannot be entertained on the ground that spirit soul cannot be cut into the pieces as a fragmental portion. Such cutting into different individual souls would make the supreme cleavable or unchangeable against the principle of the supreme soul being unchangeable. So, as a supreme soul is unchanged, soul cannot be changed. Further, we'll see the qualities of soul. So soul is unchangeable. It cannot be divided, it cannot be changed. The same way, Mayavadi philosophy also fails here. Further we'll read, as confirmed in the Gita, the fragmental portion of the Supreme exists eternally, Sanatana, and are called Shara. That is, they have the tendency to fall down into material nature. These fragmental portions are eternally so, and even after liberation, the individual soul remains the same fragmental. But once liberated, he lives an eternal life in bliss and knowledge with personality of Godhead. The theory of reflection can be applied to the super soul who is present in each and every individual body and is known as Paramatma, who is different from the individual living entity. When the sky is reflected in the water, the reflections represent both the sun and the moon and the stars also. The stars can be compared to living entities and the sun or the moon to the Supreme Lord. The individual fragmental spirit soul is represented by Arjuna, and the super soul is represented by the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. They are not on the same level, as it will be apparent in the beginning of the 4th chapter. If Arjuna is on the same level with Krishna and Krishna is not superior to Arjuna, then their relationship of instructor and the instructed becomes meaningless. If both of them are deluded by the illusionary energy, then there is no need of one being the instructor and other being the instructed. Such instruction would be useless because in the clutches of Maya, no one can be an authoritative instructor. Under the circumstances, it is admitted that Lord Krishna is the Supreme Lord, superior in the position to the living entity, Arjuna who is forgotten, soul deluded by Maya. So very nice points here. So this fragmental portion of the Supreme is eternal And it has one more quality is Shara. Shara means can be fall down. It can be fall from spiritual plane to material plane. So that is one of the tendency of the fragmental portion, or known as Jiva, spirit soul. Right? Now, this spirit soul, when it gains the knowledge and applies that knowledge in rendering the devotional service to the Lord, can attain liberation. This spirit soul or Jiva, when it acquires the knowledge about the self, who is he, what is his position, what is his relationship with the Supreme Lord, when it acquires all such knowledge, and with that knowledge, when he renders the devotional service to the Supreme Lord, it can come out of this material plane and it can attain the liberation. This soul can attain the supreme destination, liberation, in association of Paramatma. Now this Paramatma can be understood as here Prabhupada nicely mentioned, just like moon and thousands or hundreds of stars are reflected in this water body. Suppose there is a reservoir of water, some lake is there. In that lake, you can clearly see the reflection of the moon and various stars. So these stars are compared to the living entities, various living entities, and the moon is compared to the Paramatma. So every time in our heart, Paramatma is seated with us. He is seated with us to guide us. Just like in case of Arjuna, Krishna is guiding him. Same way, this Paramatma is guiding all of us. He is instructing. And this Paramatma is free from the Maya, from the illusory energy, from the material nature. He is free from all this bondage of material nature. He is free from all the effects of this material nature. We'll move forward. Now in this thing, if Arjuna may get a doubt, okay, we may not, like a previous verse, Arjuna was having doubt, this body belongs to the soul. So after leaving this body, there will be lamentation. But here, Krishna is telling there is a change. Naturally there is a change. Soul is continually passing from one body to another. Body is continually changed. So why there is a lamentation? But Arjuna may ask, but what if I am particularly attached to my body, or a body of such and such person? If that body is destroyed, then what is the use? There will be lamentation, there will be grief. So what is the solution? So that Krishna is going to clear here. Matra sparsashtu kaunteya sitoshna sukha dukkada agamma paino nitya stamat dikshvasa bharata. Translation: O son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance in due course are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception. O son of Bharata, one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. So here, Krishna is addressing Arjuna as a Kaunteya. Kaunteya means O son of Kunti, and as a Bharata. So Krishna is addressing Arjuna as to these names. Kaunteya means he is a son of Kunti, Kunti Putra, and Kunti is the daughter of Kunti Bhoja. So it is a great lineage of Kshatriyas. And here Bharat Maharaj, after whom this world is known as Bharatvarsha, he is also a great Kshatriya, that is also great lineage. So Arjuna is coming from both the side. He is belonging to the great lineage of Kshatriyas. And these Kshatriyas have a duty. Kshatriya means Chatit Rayate iti Kshatriya, one who protects from the harm. Shati means harm. One who protects from the danger, from the harm is known as Kshatriya. So Arjuna has to fight for higher purpose to establish the dharma. So Arjuna should tolerate this disturbance. This is what Krishna is addressing here. That you are a Kshatriya. From both the lineages, you are a very great. So you should fight. You should not lament. So we'll read the purport very nicely explained. In the proper discharge of duty, one has to learn to tolerate non-permanent appearances and disappearances of happiness and distress. According to the Vedic injunction, one has to take his bath early in the morning, even during the month of Magha, January or February. It is very cold at that time. But in spite of that, a man who abides by the religious principle does not hesitate to take his bath. Similarly, a woman who does not hesitate to cook in the kitchen in the month of May and June, the hottest part of the summer season, one has to execute his duty in spite of climatic inconveniences. Similarly, to fight in the religious principle of the Kshatriyas, and although one has to fight with some friend or relative, one should not deviate from his prescribed duty. One has to follow the prescribed rules and regulations of religious principles in order to rise up to the platform of knowledge, because by knowledge and devotion only one can liberate himself from the clutches of. So here very nice explanation Prabhupada has given through the example. Just like in winters, it is very cold and people, they find very difficulty to take bath. Some people even find very difficult to take bath even with hot water during peak winters. Even hot waters cannot give solace, does not help much, right? So, but as per Vedic injunctions, as per our rules and regulations, as per religion's principle, one should take bath, one should maintain suchi, one should maintain cleanliness in spite of the weather conditions. Whether it is hot, whether it is cold, one should keep himself clean, because cleanliness is next to godliness. Right? So one, to abide by his duty, to abide by the rules and regulation, he takes bath even in the coldest season, coldest time of winter. Same way, a mother who has a duty to cook for the family, for her husband, for her children, she does not hesitate even in the hottest summers. Just like now, weather is 48 degrees, 50 degrees in Delhi NCR. In spite of such hot weather, mother at the home, they are not at all hesitate to cook. Even though disturbance is there, but still they are cooking for their loved ones. They are not at all afraid of their duty. Just like here, someone may ask, like Arjuna, after hearing entire Bhagavad Gita, he was fighting for the battle, and when his son was died, Abhimanyu was killed, he was lamenting. Arjuna was very disturbed. He was lamenting, he was crying. So what is this? He understood Bhagavad Gita, he heard very nicely, but still Arjuna is showing such weakness, or he is disturbed, or he is lamenting. So how one can understand this thing? Here Krishna is telling one should tolerate, one should not be disturbed by this happiness, distress. But Arjuna, if we see, he is disturbed. So how one should understand this thing? So if we see Arjuna, on the death of his son Abhimanyu, he was disturbed. He was disturbed. He was totally shattered. He expressed his whole emotions, the emotions he was going through, the pain he was going through. He expressed all those emotions. But he was not at all distracted by his duty to fight. He was not at all affected by his duty. He properly executed his duty. So one may express his emotional disturbances, but one should not get affected by his duties. One's duty should not get affected out of all disturbances in the life. In happiness or in distress, in both these situations, just like many people, what happens? One case I heard few years back, one person, he got a very big tender or some lottery, something he got. Out of happiness, he was so much joyful, so much happy that he got heart attack. He died by the same night. And some people, out of distress, it is very natural, we see, they get depressed, they even die. So all such things happen. So one can express his emotions, all that is okay, but one should not get carried away in such a way that he forgets about his duty. One should not get carried away by his duty. So that is very important thing to learn here. Now, as mentioned, this Arjuna has been mentioned by two names, Bharata and Kaunteya. So, just like a mother or a person who follows the Vedic injunction, he takes the bath, mother cooks for his children in spite of summer. Same way, Kshatriya, Arjuna being a great Kshatriya, should also continue his responsibility, should discharge his responsibility, should do his duty to fight to establish the Dharma. A great heritage brings responsibility in the matter of proper discharge of duty. Therefore, he cannot avoid fighting. So, such a very nice thing also, if we see here, a great heritage brings responsibility. Or in other words, we can understand a person who is having a power brings responsibility, freedom. Freedom is there, but with freedoms comes responsibility. With power comes responsibility. So one should become very responsible, and out of his responsibility, he should discharge the duty, he should continue his duties. So how one can become responsible? When he understands the real self, that we being the part and parcel of the Lord, we belongs to Krishna, we are the Amsha of Krishna. Krishna is telling, Mameva Amsha Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana, we are the part of the Krishna. When we serve him, that is our primary duty. Then comes our secondary duty towards our family, towards our friends, towards the nation, towards the society, towards our company where we are working for. All these things as a secondary. Now text 15. Yam hiva vyathayanti ete purusham purusharshava samadukha sukham dhiram somritat vyakalpate. Translation: O best among Arjuna, O best among men, Arjuna, the person who is not disturbed by happiness and distress and is steady in both is certainly eligible for liberation. So Krishna is mentioning here, telling about who is eligible for liberation. The person who is free from all dualities is not disturbed by happiness and distress. He is steady in both situations. That person is eligible for liberation. And here also very nice qualification for liberation is also mentioned. Yes, one who has to follow the prescribed rules and regulation of religious principle in order to rise up to the platform of knowledge. Because by knowledge and devotion only one can liberate himself. So jnana and bhakti. From jnana and bhakti one can attain the liberation. So this knowledge means what? Jnana means what? Knowledge about the self, knowledge about the super soul or the supreme soul, Ishvara, knowledge about the material world, this Prakriti, knowledge about the spiritual world. That is known as knowledge jnana. And when one act on that knowledge, with that knowledge when one act in devotion, devotion means bhakti, bhakti means seva to the Lord. When one acts with that jnana, one can liberate. What is that jnana? That I am the part of the Lord. So when one acts on that part, he is eligible for liberation. And when one acts, he will not be disturbed by happiness and distress. He will be studying both the cases. Read the purport. Anyone who is studying his determination for the advanced stage of spiritual realization and can equally tolerate the onslaughts of distress and happiness is certainly a person eligible for liberation. The person who is very advanced, determined, with determination, he wants to make a spiritual realization. That person is eligible for liberation. A person, suppose they are a person who is very determined. That's why in Bhakti, determination is the key principle. When somebody has determination, yes, I am very determined to chant this Hare Krishna mantra, I am very determined to read Bhagavad Gita, to render seva to the Lord. When such determination is there, his liberation is assured. That's why we take sankalpa, like I will chant these many rounds. I will read, I will attend sadhana. When we follow such Krishna conscious process with determination, it ensures our liberation. Because by our own strength we cannot attain liberation. But such determination pleases the Lord. It pleases Krishna. So Krishna gives us liberation. Krishna gives us that liberation. So that determination is the key principle of the bhakti. Sometimes what happens when we are not determined, chanting, okay, we'll do. Sometimes like that, some out of laziness. So what happened? That is not, surety of liberation is not there. Because if we are not determined for this process, so how liberation can be there? Just like a person who is preparing for the competitive exams, just like recently some NEET exam result came out, JEE Mains, JEE Advanced. Such exams they appear. So they prepare very determined, they are very determined. And for months together, year together, they invest their energy in the preparation of the exam to clarify that exam. So what is required? Determination is required. For such exam, determination is required. So this is liberation, which is not some ordinary thing. Liberation is to come out of this duality, to come out of the birth and death, which is not so easy. Krishna further will see, Krishna is telling out of thousands, somebody will try, and out of those thousands, somebody will attain liberation. Manushya Nam Sahasreshu. Out of 1,000, somebody will try for liberation, and out of those 1,000, somebody will attain. Such a rare thing it is. But how one can attain liberation? When one is determined. So when one is determined, what happens? Krishna give him guidance. Krishna is telling in the Bhagavad Gita, Tesham satata yuktanam bhajtam pirti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upyantite. The one who is engaged in my devotional service, how? By priti purvakam, by love and devotion. To such person, dadami buddhi yogam tam, I give intelligence by which he can come to me. Krishna gives that intelligence. Krishna makes the arrangement by which one can make a spiritual progress, by which one can attain Krishna's abode. Here further we'll read, in the Varnashrama institution, the fourth stage of life, namely the renounced order, sannyasa is a painstaking situation, but one who is serious about making his life perfect surely adapts the sannyasa order of life in spite of all difficulties. The difficulty usually arises from having to share family relationships, to give up the connection of wife and children. But if anyone is able to tolerate such difficulty, surely his path to spiritual realization is complete. Similarly, in Arjuna's discharge of duty as a Kshatriya, he is advised to persevere even if it is difficult to fight with his family members or similarly beloved persons. Lord Chaitanya took sannyasa at the age of 24, and his dependents, young wife as well as old mother, and no one else could look after them. Yet for a higher cause he took sannyasa and was studying the discharge of higher duties. That is the way of achieving liberation from the age. Now, here just like a sannyasi, he take sannyasa out of all the difficulties. He renounces all material life, his wife, children, whatever it is. He renounce all these things. For what purpose? To discharge the higher duties. Same way Krishna is telling, oh Arjuna, you should not be disturbed by happiness and distress. You should be steady. And when you are steady, because he has to kill his relatives, his friends. So you should not be disturbed by such situation. And when you are not disturbed, you will certainly attain liberation. This is what Krishna is assuring. And Lord Chaitanya, he by his own personal example, he has shown this thing. But now one may ask, like we are in the family life, we have our family, we have our relatives, we have a job to do. So it is not at all easy for us to attain this, take this sannyasa. So what is we can do, right? What is possible for us? How we can do? So that is what Acharyas explain. Sannyasa means what? Vairagya. So when one understands that everything is belong to Krishna, everything is of Krishna, has emanated from Krishna. When one engage everything in Krishna's service, when one connect everything with Krishna, that becomes the highest level of Vairagya. Nirbandha Krishna Sambandha Yukta Vairagya Uchyate. That becomes the Vairagya, highest level of Vairagya. When we connect everything, whatever we are doing for Krishna, just like we want to eat food, offer it to Krishna and take prasad. We want to read something, read about Krishna. We want to talk something, talk about Krishna, chant Krishna's name. We want to have relationship in center with Krishna. So when we connect everything with Krishna, even though that thing is temporary, that thing will give us some trouble. That thing is temporary. When we engage in Krishna service, it becomes eternal, it becomes permanent. It becomes permanent. And that is the best business one can do, to make temporary things into the permanent. That is the perfect businessman one can become. So I think we are good for today. Anyone has any question or anything to ask? So this liberation, one becomes eligible for liberation when one is steady in both happiness and in distress, and one who act on the platform of knowledge, jnana, and serve the Lord with devotion, one is eligible to become the free from miseries. One who is determined can easily attain the liberation. Okay, so we'll end here. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki
Jai.
Prabhupada ki
Jai.